AI is going to take away my job. AI is going to write code for me. AI is going to do that. AI is going to do that. Do this, do that. But yes, DevOps is such that where AI cannot completely take away your job.
So, hi everyone, welcome to our second episode for the Career Catalyst podcast. And today we have a very special guest, Mr. Nagaraj. He is an experienced DevOps engineer and a network automation specialist with over 24 years of experience in the industry. So, welcome to our podcast, sir. Thank you so much for showing up. We are really delighted to have you here. All right,
So,
so just a little introduction from your side, please. We'd love that.
yeah. My name is Nagaraj Ragnutala. As already it was told, I have around over 2 decades of experience in the industry, and I'm basically based out of Hyderabad. I'm a still hands-on technical guy, and I would like to be. DevOps and network automation, these are the areas which I'm currently working on. These are my areas of expertise.
Okay, that's great. So we would actually want to know that how were you fascinated by DevOps? How did you really navigate it, your career there?
So for that, we have to go back to the time where it all started, year 2001. So where I started my journey as a web developer. Then I subsequently moved into a role uh, in testing, that is test developer, not the manual testing, but kind of automation testing, building frameworks, writing code to make code basically. And then from there, I moved into, during all this journey, like I was always kind of um, uh, been exploring new technologies, how I can automate things. Then I moved into other lead and managerial roles where I still kept myself technical, getting involved into the day-to-day activities, things, technologies involved, exploring new tools and technologies. So at the end of it all, I've gone through every bit of piece which is involved in which goes into developing new software and which goes beyond that as well. After development, what happens also? So, which if you see is kind of what DevOps does. Right? So, DevOps is all about how you develop software, how you take it to the end users after that. So, I guess my experience throughout this journey had led me to this, and that's what got me interested in pursuing this field formally.
All right. So what you're
That's
trying to say is that it was in your career journey itself that you got handy with the tools, right? And then you were fascinated by automation, as you mentioned, right?
yes, that's right.
All right. So, what were the different kind of tools you got to know so that our audience can get a clearer picture that this is something that helped you, continue with the DevOps role.
Well, as I said, DevOps is all about automation, automation, and automation. So first, you need to have a little bit of scripting knowledge in the form of Linux shell scripting, and at least one programming knowledge you have to pick up. So which uh, if you have some sort of Java background, you can explore more on Java or Node or C, C++. But nowadays, most of the tools use Python. So I would say Python is one of the, if you're not familiar with any other programming languages, I guess Python is the right tool for you to get started off with. So that's how I started myself. I've mastered Linux shell scripting and then taught myself Python and then moved into other side of things like Ansible, Terraform, Docker, Kubernetes, and on the monitoring side, Nagios, Prometheus, etc.
Okay, yeah, wonderful. So, are you trying to say that if someone wants to, enter as a fresher DevOps engineer, can he just simply start with programming language only, or they also need knowledge about other tools such as you have mentioned, right? ELK, and then we have Ansible.
Well, for freshers, first thing is more than the tools, you need to have the mindset towards automation. Right. So you can start demonstrating that in your day-to-day job, how I can make my job easier in this process. You have to start with the automation outlook. Then you have to equip yourself with one of these tools, either a scripting language or a programming language. Then rest of the things will follow. Once you are confident about these things, all other tools which I mentioned, they are just like that. I mean, you would say once you have mastered programming or scripting, other tools are like not much. They'll be like a piece of cake. You just need that outlook, automation outlook. How I can solve the problem and how I can automate it.
All right. So it's all about automation at the end of the day, right? All right. That's amazing. All right. So does someone need to be especially from a technical background if they want to break into DevOps, or someone from non-technical background with programming language knowledge can break into the industry? What are your thoughts about that, please?
Well, I would say anybody can get into it, but yes, as you said, if you're already a technical person, it would be easier for you. If you're a non-technical person, then yes, you have some bit of learning curve there. You have to be ready for a few grueling sessions of troubleshooting and getting your hands dirty, going inside things, breaking down the things, and seeing. So yeah, it's a hardcore technical role, and if you are passionate about getting your hands dirty, then I guess yes, anybody can get into it and can do a good job.
All right, all right. So, what does a day in a DevOps engineer look like typically for you if we talk about you? What does it look like exactly? Are there some repetitive tasks or something that, get you really excited for your day, keep going?
Well, as I said, it gives us immense satisfaction. I mean, if you're a programmer, then you write code, you run it, see it working. Let's say if you're building a web application, you see the result in a website. It gives you satisfaction, right? So if you're a test engineer, you or take that web application, write a few Selenium automation test cases, run them, and then see when you see that results, everything has passed. It gives you satisfaction. But the best part with the DevOps engineer is I get to see how the development happens, how the developers write their code, use version control tools to version control it, and then how they go about creating the build, because we help them to create the build by creating CI/CD pipelines. And so the result of it automatically, I mean, the code which is checked into the repository gets pulled and it gets built and the binary is created. And then we see that our IAC scripts that we have written, infrastructure as a code scripts, provision the server, and the tools like Ansible configure it. And we use Docker to containerize it and push that container to a Docker hub. From there, the image, the application which the developers has written, gets pulled into a Kubernetes cluster and it is running inside a Kubernetes cluster. From there, I'll be able to open it and see the web application in the website. If you see what the developer sees is his perspective. What I see is the end user's perspective, how the end user is going to use it with just a few clicks of a button. So that's what gives me immense satisfaction at the end of the day by being a DevOps engineer. When the application which is written by a developer, I see it running inside a Kubernetes cluster, being continuously monitored by the monitoring tools. And not only this, and as I said, this process is continuous. That's why you see the DevOps symbol is like a infinity symbol. It is like continuously flowing into one thing into the other. So the moment developer changes anything, immediately the chain of events kicks in and it immediately reflects in the kind of production server, right, which is the Kubernetes cluster. So when we see these things happening, it gives us a purpose of what we are doing.
Okay. So can we just shed some light on the Kubernetes cluster you mentioned? Is it a really important tool for day-to-day life in a DevOps engineer?
I would say not for freshers, because they would only be getting scared of the things, because even for senior people, senior developers or senior people in the tech industry, Kubernetes is still a mystery. And there is so much, it's a kind of vast ocean. So I would say it is important. You can keep it as one of the goals for later, right? But there is a lot of build up that needs to happen. So Kubernetes cluster is the way going forward. Kubernetes is the way going forward because we are seeing the almost every application is being containerized, and the only way to take this containerized application and deploy them as applications and then see them running, Kubernetes is the best solution that we have out there.
All right. So just to conclude everything, can you please lay down a clear career roadmap for someone who's a fresher who wants to break into DevOps industry? So what are your thoughts?
So as the career path would be something like, okay, you start as a DevOps associate, DevOps engineer, right, where you may not get to see the big picture right in the beginning. But as I said, you have to focus on solving the problems which are at hand. Right. So the purpose why DevOps engineer exists is to smoothen things out for the where this entire process of development leading into the operation side of the things with the use of tools, so that we deliver software with quality and quicker turnaround time. Right. So you start as a DevOps engineer, and you start doing anything that requires to be automated. There should not be absolutely no manual stuff if you want to bring this efficiency into this entire process. And then, just like any other roles that are out there in the IT industry, DevOps also has these roles, right? From DevOps engineer, you have DevOps lead, DevOps architect. In fact, I recently got a mail where the opening is for a DevOps director. And so the industry is certainly changing. It is compared to the number of companies that are out there. I can still say there are still large number of companies which are yet to move into the full-fledged DevOps life cycle. So the market is only going to open up and then create more and more opportunities for you. And there are ample opportunities out there.
So continuing on that part, do you think the future is bright for a DevOps engineer? Like, what's the future that you can portray, in the coming 20 or 10 years down the line?
It certainly looks bright. As I said, more and more companies will only be adopting this technology, this set of tools, trying to better their development processes. And another thing that DevOps engineer who is aspiring to be a DevOps engineer has to have is the cloud outlook. Right? So they need to equip themselves with at least one of the cloud technologies that are out there, either GCP or Azure or AWS. Because how I see the market is going to go is slowly things are going to move away from the on-premise kind of deployment into the cloud. And so if you are, and for everything that we do on-premise, there are cloud equivalents out there. So if you do not have access to any of the cloud systems also, just keep reading up about them, but keep doing hands-on with the tools that you can download, install on-premise, because then the migration is going to be pretty smooth. Migrating, transitioning from off-site on-premise tools to the cloud tools is going to be smooth going forward.
All right. So someone who is aspiring to be in DevOps industry, they definitely need to be handy with all the tools and keep the cloud
One of the
computing
cloud technologies.
Right. All right. That's wonderful. Is there something like, the mainstream technologies we talk about in cloud computing? It's mostly AWS or Azure. Are there some other cloud computing technologies that people can aspire to be in, or do you, prefer AWS and Azure only? Like, what about GCP?
I mean, AWS was the first. I mean, they have the early mover advantage, right? They moved fast, so they captured a lot of market. But Azure, having backed up by Microsoft, they also are gaining a lot of ground. GCP, I guess, has started late in the race, so they are still trying to catch up, but it is going to grab the market either. But yeah, these are the major players. AWS, I mean, if you would like to order for someone to start looking to learn these things, I would say start with AWS. You can create a free subscription. You can explore um, AWS different services, and then you can start with Azure. Azure also supports creating a free subscription. Even GCP gives you around $300 credit where you can explore the technologies. But yeah, I guess these are the hot technologies out there in the market at this point of time. So if you master these things, then anything that is going to come forward, like you have open source tools also coming up, like Red Hat, and then OpenShift, etc., etc. So you are going to be comfortable with them as well, because ultimately the philosophy is same. For everything, there is a service. You create a service. Through the service, you create your infrastructure. You automate your pipelines. You deploy the things. You create Kubernetes clusters on the cloud. So the underlying principles will be the same. It's just familiarity with the tool is what you need to get used to.
Okay, all right. That's amazing. So, do you think professional certification is required to land a job as a DevOps engineer?
This is not just specific to DevOps, it is common in the industry, right? So, certifications are important, but certifications will only take you so far, so only to a certain extent, right? So, you need both. You need skills as well as certification. If you just have skills, it will take time for people to find you. So, to be found, you need to have certifications. But once you are found, you don't have the technical knowledge to back your to justify the certification, then also you're going to lose. So you need to equip yourself with the tools and then achieve some certification. So the combination of both these things is what going to take you further.
Yeah.
So do not just be obsessed with the certifications. At the same time, do not ignore certifications as well.
Okay, that was really insightful, actually. So let's talk about the money part. A lot of people are there who are actually from non-technical background, and some of them are actually allured by the money perspective for DevOps, right? So, what are your thoughts on that? What's a package that a fresher can expect, or someone who has been, transitioning from a non-technical role? So, what can they really expect in the industry?
See, this is something that nobody can control this, right? So you might be very good, but you may not be at the right time at the right moment. So you might land in a small company with a small package, right? Someone might be lucky enough to be at the right time at the right place. They might land with a big package in a big company. But again, I would say the starting point, it's like the starting is not in your control, but where you end is certainly in your control. So I would say do not bother too much about the packages. Do not get lured by the what others are getting. Right. So if you focus on upgrading your skills, learning your skills, then you're certainly going to get what you deserve. And if you really want to talk about figures, I guess I saw somewhere like 7 to 8 lakhs package is what that freshers can expect. But again, that's a market trend. If big company takes you like Cisco, etc., they pay you in 2025 also, right? At the same time, there are small companies which are offering 2-3 lakhs also, and then taking you. So on average, you can expect about 7 to 8 lakhs. But again, don't be too bogged down by the big packages, or don't be put down by the small packages. So focus on skills, you will get what you deserve.
That's wonderful. Let's talk about you a little bit. Someone with over 20 plus years of experience in DevOps. So, what's the maximum package or like they could expect? Because, people feel motivated with that. So, what's your take on that?
Well, at the level of 20-25 years, certainly it's going to be anywhere above 40-50 lakhs, because I mean, I'm just being modest and being on the lower side. So you
Makes
can
sense.
only think upwards of that, because
Yeah.
the kind of responsibility that you have, the kind of role that you'll be paying, the kind of value that you're bringing to the company is also going to be accordingly. So companies certainly are going to respect that and then compensate you accordingly.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, so we're actually, reaching the later part of this podcast. So, if you would want to, conclude DevOps in just a single line and the importance of a DevOps engineer, what do you think you would quote?
I would say DevOps is the future. DevOps engineers are irreplaceable. Nowadays, we are seeing like AI is going to take away my job. AI is going to write code for me. AI is going to do that. AI is going to do that. Do this, do that. But yes, DevOps is such that where AI cannot completely take away your job. And there are so many. It's a combination of your skill, your mindset, your figuring out which tool is right for which problem. Right, the kind of problems that you're solving are not so straightforward that you can simply give instructions to the tool and get the code out of it. Right, so as a DevOps engineer, you are AI safe. Your job is AI safe, I would say.
That's amazing. That must be relieving for a lot of people, I'm sure. Yeah. So, on that note, what's the final piece of advice who is an aspiring DevOps engineer? What would you tell them?
I would say, as I've been stressing on automation, have the automation outlook and try to automate everything. Right, there are two things. One is first you give me the role, then I'll perform the duties up to the role, or you start performing the duties, then aspire for the role. Right, so I would say the later is a better approach. First, you develop that DevOps engineer kind of mentality, then you will stand out and will start picking up the tools and technologies, and then you're going to get what you.
That's a wonderful takeaway, sir. Thank you so much for your precious time. We loved every bit of it. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on the show.